All right, let's be real. Most of us live our lives like we're in a video game, waiting for some magical level-up moment to change everything. But here's the kicker, you don't even know the cheat codes. So today, we're talking about the life lessons no one teaches you but absolutely change everything. And here's the twist. If you don't learn these things, making real change might be as impossible as folding a fitted sheet. Spoiler, it's never happening. But don't worry, I'm not here to preach or sugarcoat. I'm here to hit you with some hard truths, share a few personal faceplants, and maybe even make you laugh-cry in the process. Let's dive in before your coffee gets cold or your cat jumps on your keyboard. Ready? Let's go. 1. Hard work doesn't always pay off. All right? Let's kick off with the one that's bound to ruffle some feathers. Hard work doesn't always pay off. I know. Cue the outrage from motivational speakers everywhere. But let's be real. How many of us have busted our butts on something only to see zero reward, while someone who seems to have just stumbled into the room gets everything handed to them? It's maddening. Let me paint you a picture. A few years ago, I worked a soul-crushing corporate job. I was the yes person. Need me to stay late? Sure. Take on extra projects? Of course. Rewrite the entire presentation because someone forgot a deadline? Absolutely. I thought, if I just put in enough effort, they'll see my value and the promotion will be mine. Guess what happened? Nothing. Zero recognition, no promotion. Not even a thank you email. Meanwhile, this guy, let's call him Chad, because of course his name was Chad, barely did the minimum, but somehow managed to schmooze his way up the ladder. Turns out, Chad's Saturday morning golf games with the boss were worth more than my blood, sweat, and tears. And that's when it hit me. Hard work alone is not the golden ticket we've been sold. It's not fair. But life isn't a math problem where effort always equals results. Sometimes the game is rigged. Sometimes luck, timing, or connections matter more than grinding yourself into the ground. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying hard work is useless. Quite the opposite. Hard work is like planting seeds. Some will grow into something beautiful, but others will just sit there buried in dirt, no matter how much you water them. The key is to work smart and hard. Ask yourself, am I planting my seeds in the right soil? Am I working towards goals that actually align with what I want out of life? Back in that job, I realized I was working my fingers to the bone for someone else's dream. And when I finally left, I took that same work ethic and poured it into something that mattered to me, my own projects, my own goals. That's when things started to shift. The hard work I put into building my dream paid off in ways that working for Chad and his golfing buddies never could. I learned that effort isn't about working harder for just anyone, it's about working harder for yourself. But here's where it gets deep. Sometimes hard work doesn't pay off at all. And that's okay too. Because every ounce of effort teaches you something. It might teach you that you're on the wrong path. It might teach you resilience or grit. It might teach you how to stand up for yourself, or maybe even how to walk away when you're being undervalued. Let me share another story. When I started my side hustle, I poured everything into it. Late nights, weekends, skipped parties, you name it. For a while, it went nowhere. There were moments I thought, why am I even doing this? What's the point? But looking back, even those moments of failure were valuable. I learned what worked, what didn't, and most importantly, that failure isn't fatal. Hard work doesn't guarantee success, but it does guarantee growth. And that growth, that's priceless. Now let's circle back to Chad, because I know you're still thinking about him. Chad's out there, living his best life, climbing the corporate ladder with his golf clubs in hand. And you know what? That's fine. let him. Because here's the thing, hard work isn't just about the outcome. It's about who you become in the process. Every late night, every extra effort, every setback, it shapes you. And while Chad might win the promotion, you're winning something bigger. Self-respect, integrity, and the confidence that comes from knowing you gave it your all. So yeah, hard work doesn't always pay off in the way you want it to. But it's never wasted. It's always teaching you something. About life, about others, and most importantly, about yourself. And hey, if it doesn't work out, maybe just pick up golf. You never know who you'll meet on the course. 2. Time is your real currency. All right, let's talk about something we all waste but can never get back. Time. Yeah, I know. Everyone says time is money. But no, time is way more valuable than money. You can make more money, but you can't make more time. And yet, most of us treat our time like it's monopoly cash, just throwing it around like it doesn't matter. Spoiler, it matters. Here's the controversial part. You might think you're spending your time wisely, but chances are you're wasting a ton of it on things that don't align with what you really want. I learned this the hard way. A few years ago, I spent 2 years in a job I absolutely hated. Why? Because it was safe. It paid the bills, had benefits, and looked good on LinkedIn. But every day, I'd sit in my cubicle staring at spreadsheets, feeling my soul slowly shrivel. I kept telling myself, just tough it out a little longer. But one day, I realized something. I was trading hours of my life, hours I'd never get back, for a paycheck that didn't even make me happy. And here's the kicker. I thought I was being responsible, but really, I was just scared. Scared to take a risk, scared to try something new, scared to waste time chasing my dreams. Ironically, I was wasting time playing it safe. Let's get even more real. Think about how you spend your time every day. How many hours do you spend scrolling through TikTok, binge-watching Netflix, or doing things out of obligation because you're too afraid to say no? And before you say, "But I don't have time to work on my goals," let me ask you this. How much time did you spend stalking your ex's Instagram last week? Here's the brutal truth. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't matter, you're saying no to something that does. I once spent months helping a friend plan her wedding, picking flowers, organizing seating charts, you name it. I thought I was being a good friend, but honestly, it was draining, and it wasn't even my dream. I could have been using that time to build my own projects or, I don't know, sleep. But here's the deeper message. Time isn't just about productivity, it's about intention. Are you spending your time on things that light you up? Are you investing in relationships that matter? Are you giving yourself time to rest, to dream, to just be? I'll never forget something my grandmother told me before she passed. She said, "When you get to the end of your life, you won't care about the money you made or the things you bought. You'll care about how you spent your time and who you spent it with." That hit me like a ton of bricks because it's true. We live like we have all the time in the world, but we don't. Here's the controversial part. If you're spending your time on something that doesn't align with your values, stop. Quit the dead-end job. End the toxic relationship. Skip the party you don't want to go to. People will call you selfish, but that's just because they don't understand the value of your time. You can't get it back, so why waste it trying to please everyone else? Let me give you a little homework. After this video, take 5 minutes, just 5, and write down how you spent your last 24 hours. Then ask yourself, was this worth it? Did it bring me closer to the life I want? If the answer is no, it's time to make some changes. Because here's the thing, time isn't just a currency, It's your most valuable asset. And once you realize that, you stop spending it recklessly. You start treating it like the treasure it is. And hey, if you've spent the last few minutes watching this video, good news, you just made an excellent investment. Now go spend the rest of your time wisely, or at least better than Chad from Lesson 1. 3. You can't pour from an empty cup. All right, let's talk about self-care. I know, it's become such a buzzword that it feels like an excuse to buy bath bombs and binge reality TV. But here's the thing, you can't pour from an empty cup. And if you're rolling your eyes right now thinking, yeah, I've heard this before, let me hit you with some uncomfortable truths. Taking care of yourself isn't a luxury, it's a freaking requirement. And yet we live in a society that celebrates burnout like it's some kind of badge of honor. Work 80 hours a week, hustle culture, never take a day off, grind mindset. Meanwhile, your mental health is waving a white flag, and your body's like, hey, remember me? I'm dying over here. Let me tell you a story, one that still makes me cringe. A couple of years ago, I said yes to everything. Extra work? Yes. Volunteering for events? Yes. Helping friends move, babysit, or plan their vacations? Yes. I thought being the go-to person made me valuable. Spoiler alert, it made me miserable. One day, I hit a wall, like literally. I fainted in my kitchen while trying to make coffee because I was so exhausted. Picture this, me, sprawled on the floor, with coffee grounds everywhere, thinking, oh, maybe I should have taken that nap last week. It was a wake-up call, literally and figuratively. Here's the controversial part. Self-care isn't just about bubble baths and yoga. It's about boundaries. And let me tell you, boundaries are hard. People will guilt-trip you, call you selfish, and act like you're the worst person ever for saying no. But guess what? That's their problem, not yours. When I started saying no, I felt like the world was going to end. Friends were annoyed, my boss was confused, and I felt guilty as hell. But you know what happened? The world didn't end. And I finally had time to breathe, to rest, and to focus on things that mattered to me. Think about it this way. You're the cup. Every time you give your energy, time, or attention to someone else, you're pouring from that cup. But what happens if you never refill it? Exactly, you're running on empty. And let me tell you, trying to help others when you're completely drained doesn't make you a hero. It makes you a ticking time bomb. Here's the deep truth. If you don't prioritize yourself, no one else will. The world is perfectly fine with taking everything you have to give until there's nothing left. That's why self-care isn't selfish, it's survival. It's saying, I matter too. And here's the wild part. When you start taking care of yourself, you actually have more to give. When I started setting boundaries and making time for rest, I noticed something crazy. I was more present, more patient, and more capable of helping others. Turns out, taking care of yourself is the most selfless thing you can do. Now, let's address the skeptics. Maybe you're thinking, but I don't have time for self-care. Oh, really? How much time did you spend scrolling on your phone yesterday? Exactly. Self-care doesn't have to be this big, time-consuming thing. It can be as simple as taking a 10-minute walk, saying no to something you don't want to do, or just sitting in silence for 5 minutes. Here's the bottom line. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give your best to your family, your work, or even yourself if you're running on fumes. So refill your cup, whatever that looks like for you. And remember, anyone who gets mad at you for taking care of yourself doesn't really care about you. They care about what you can do for them. Let that sink in. So, go ahead and take that nap, skip that party, or binge watch your favorite show, guilt-free. Because when your cup is full, you're unstoppable. And if anyone tries to make you feel bad about it, just tell them, sorry, Not sorry, my cup comes first. 4. Perfectionism is procrastination in disguise. All right, let's dive into a spicy truth bomb. Perfectionism is just procrastination in a shiny overachiever costume. Yeah, I said it. All you perfectionists out there clutching your color-coded planners and rewriting the same email 15 times, let's have a chat. Because what you're calling high standards might just be your sneaky way of avoiding taking real action. Let me tell you a story. I used to call myself a perfectionist like it was some kind of badge of honor. Every project, every presentation, every little thing I did had to be flawless. I'd spend hours tweaking fonts on a PowerPoint slide, rephrasing sentences in an email, or researching a topic so thoroughly I could have written a book on it. People thought I was super dedicated, and honestly, I did too. But here's what was really happening. I wasn't striving for excellence. I was stalling. All that perfecting was just me avoiding the fear of actually putting my work out there. Because if it's not out there, no one can judge it, right? Here's the controversial part. Perfectionism isn't about being your best. It's about fear. Fear of failure. Fear of criticism. Fear of not being good enough. So instead of just starting or finishing something, we hide behind this idea that it's not ready yet. Newsflash, it'll never feel ready. I learned this the hard way. I spent months working on a personal project, rewriting, revising, scrapping it, starting over, until one day a friend called me out. She said, "You know, the world can't see your perfect project if it's still sitting in your drafts folder." That hit me like a ton of bricks because she was right. I wasn't making it better. I was just avoiding the terrifying moment of letting it go and risking failure. So I finally hit submit. And guess what? It wasn't perfect. People noticed mistakes, gave me feedback, and even criticized parts of it. But here's the kicker. None of that mattered. The world didn't end. And more importantly, I realized that done is better than perfect. Think about this. How many dreams, ideas, or projects are stuck in limbo because you're too busy perfecting them? How much time have you wasted on minor details no one else even notices? We've all heard the phrase, practice makes perfect. But let me hit you with a better one. Progress makes perfect. Here's the deep truth. Perfectionism is a thief. It steals your time, your confidence, and your opportunities. It convinces you that if you can't do something perfectly, you shouldn't do it at all. But life isn't about perfect. It's about showing up, trying, and learning as you go. And here's another kicker. Perfectionism isn't even achievable. No matter how much effort you put in, there will always be something you could improve. So stop chasing this impossible standard and start chasing progress instead. When I finally let go of perfectionism, my productivity skyrocketed. I started writing, creating, and putting myself out there without obsessing over every little detail. And guess what? People don't care if it's perfect. They care that it's authentic, that it's useful, that it's out there. Now, I'm not saying you should just slap together some half-baked work and call it a day. Put in effort, sure. But don't let perfect stop you from starting or finishing. Think about it. What's worse? Putting out something imperfect or never putting it out at all? Exactly. So, to all my fellow recovering perfectionists, let it go. Hit submit. Share the messy draft. Take the risk. Because at the end of the day, no one remembers how perfect something was. They remember that you did it. And hey, if anyone criticizes it, just tell them, perfectionism is procrastination, and I don't have time for that. Here's your challenge. Take that thing you've been overthinking, your side project, your resume, your half-written book, and just do the thing. No more polishing, no more tweaking, no more excuses. Because done is better than perfect, and progress beats procrastination every single time. 5. Your parents were winging it too. All right, let's rip off the band-aid of childhood naivety. Your parents didn't have it all figured out. Yep, those same people who told you to eat your vegetables, get good grades and be home by 10 were making it up as they went along. Shocking, right? Here's the thing. As kids, we look at our parents like they're superheroes who know everything. And then you grow up, realize how hard life actually is, and suddenly it hits you. Wait a minute, they were just winging it the whole time. It's equal parts humbling and horrifying. Let me tell you about the day I discovered this truth. I was 24, struggling to make my rent, and called my mom in a full-blown panic, hoping for some sage advice. You know what she said? "Oh, honey, we didn't know what we were doing at your age either. We just hoped for the best." I was like, hoped for the best? That's the parenting strategy you used to raise me? Think about it. When you were 5 and your parents were telling you not to stick a fork in the electrical outlet, they weren't dispensing ancient wisdom. They were just trying to keep you alive. When you were a teenager and they grounded you for sneaking out, they weren't trying to ruin your life. They were terrified of you becoming the lead in a true crime documentary. Here's the controversial part. Realizing your parents were winging it forces you to confront a deeper truth. Nobody really knows what they're doing. Life doesn't come with an instruction manual, and everyone is just figuring it out as they go. Your parents were no exception. I used to think my parents had all the answers, but then I became an adult and started seeing them as people. People with fears, dreams, insecurities and flaws. People who made mistakes, struggled, and didn't always get it right. And honestly, that realization was both terrifying and liberating. Now let's get real for a second. Imagine being handed a baby and told, "Congratulations, you're responsible for this tiny human's entire existence. Don't mess it up." That's what being a parent is. It's not some magical transformation where you suddenly know everything. It's trial and error, mixed with a lot of sleepless nights and Google searches like, "Why won't my baby stop crying at 3 a.m.? And yet, as kids, we hold our parents to these impossible standards. We expect them to have all the answers, never make mistakes, and always do what's right. But here's the thing, they're human. They were figuring it out as they went along, just like you are now. Here's the deeper message. Your parents did the best they could with what they had. Maybe they didn't always get it right. Maybe they made mistakes, big ones even. But chances are they were trying, and if they didn't give you what you needed, maybe it's because they didn't know how. For me, it was realizing that my dad, who always seemed so stoic and unshakable, was under an incredible amount of pressure just to provide for us. He didn't always have the emotional tools to be the dad I wanted, but he loved us in the ways he knew how. And my mum, she admitted she often felt like she was failing, but to me, she was my safe place. So, if you're carrying around resentment or disappointment because your parents didn't do everything perfectly, let me offer you this. Forgive them, not for them, but for you. Recognize that they were winging it, just like you are now. And if you're a parent yourself, cut yourself some slack. Your kids don't need you to be perfect. They need you to show up, love them, and try your best. Here's the twist, though. Once you realize your parents were winging it, it becomes a lot harder to blame them for everything that went wrong in your life. Sorry, no more free therapy talking points. You might have to start taking some responsibility yourself. At the end of the day, your parents were human, just like you. They did the best they could with what they knew. And guess what? So are you. So let's give them and ourselves a little grace. Now go call your mom or dad, or don't, because boundaries are a thing, and tell them, "Thanks for winging it. You did all right." 6. No one's coming to save you, but that's empowering. All right, brace yourself for this one. No one is coming to save you. No prince on a white horse, no miracle job offer, no magic lottery win. It's just you, my friend. Sounds depressing, right? But stick with me. It's actually the most empowering truth you'll ever hear. We grow up on a steady diet of rescue stories, Disney movies, rom-coms, and even those cheesy motivational posters all sell us this idea that someone or something is going to swoop in and fix everything. Spoiler alert, they're not. I learned this the hard way. A few years ago, I was stuck in a job I hated. Every Sunday night, I'd spiral into an existential crisis, praying for some kind of divine intervention. Maybe my boss would get transferred, or someone would just hand me my dream career on a silver platter. Guess how that worked out? It didn't. Here's where it gets real. Nobody is obligated to save you. Not your boss, not your parents, not your partner, not the universe. And once you accept that, something incredible happens. You realize that you are the hero of your own story. Here's the controversial part. Waiting for someone to save you isn't just unrealistic, it's passive. It's giving away your power, your agency, and your ability to change your own life. It's like sitting in a sinking boat and yelling, "Someone, come plug the hole," when there's a bucket right next to you. When I finally got tired of waiting for a magical solution, I made a terrifying decision. I quit that soul-sucking job. No backup plan, no safety net, just me and the shaky belief that I could figure it out. And you know what? It was hard, like ramen noodles every night, crying on my bathroom floor hard. But it was also the moment I realized how much power I had to shape my own life. Think about this. No one else knows what you want or need better than you do. No one else is as invested in your happiness as you are. That's not selfish. That's reality. So why are you waiting for someone else to solve problems they don't even fully understand? Look, I'm not saying you shouldn't ask for help. Community, support, and mentorship are essential, but there's a big difference between asking for help and expecting someone else to do the work for you. Here's the deep truth. When you realize no one's coming to save you, it forces you to take ownership of your life. And that's where the magic happens. Because the moment you stop waiting for a savior, you start becoming one for yourself. It's terrifying at first, but it's also freeing. You stop playing the victim and start playing the lead role. You stop blaming other people or circumstances and start looking for solutions. Now I get it. Taking responsibility isn't as glamorous as waiting for a knight in shining armor. But let me tell you, it's way more satisfying. Because when you take the reins, every success, big or small, feels like a freaking triumph. Here's the part nobody tells you. Saving yourself doesn't mean doing it all alone. It means recognizing that you are the driving force. The support, advice, and tools you gather along the way. Those are just the sidekicks to your hero's journey. So, if you're waiting for someone or something to save you, let me gently burst that bubble. They're not coming. And that's okay. Because you don't need them. Everything you need to start making changes is already within you. Now, if you're still thinking, but what if I fail? Let me tell you this. Failing while trying is better than staying stuck, waiting. At least when you try, you're moving forward. And honestly, even if you fall flat on your face, you'll still be closer to your goals than you were just sitting around. So here's your call to action. Be your own hero. Stop waiting. Start doing. It won't be easy and it won't be perfect, but it'll be yours. And hey, when you finally save yourself and look back at how far you've come, you'll realize something incredible. You didn't need anyone to save you. You had it in you all along. Now go out there, cape or no cape, and start saving yourself. You've got this. Cheers to owning your story. All right, friends, that's a wrap. We've covered some hard truths, had a few laughs, and maybe even shed a tear or two. If you're feeling a little called out right now, good. That means you're paying attention. Remember, life isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions and having the courage to keep moving forward. Here's the takeaway. The lessons we've talked about today aren't here to bring you down. They're here to set you free. Whether it's letting go of perfectionism, taking responsibility for your own happiness, or forgiving your parents for winging it, these truths are the keys to living a life that's real, messy, and 100% yours. Now, if any of this hit home for you, let me know in the comments. Which one of these truths shook you the most? And hey, if you have a life lesson of your own, drop it below. Because let's be real, we're all just winging it together. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that little notification bell so you never miss another dose of brutally honest wisdom. Trust me, we're just getting started. All right, go out there and be the hero of your own story. You've got the tools, the grit, and, most importantly, the courage. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you next time. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep being unapologetically you.